Welcome to the R&R Show. Sit back and relax and enjoy the best little sports show ever. I'm your host, Michael Roope, and on the other side of this phone, in that newly decorated room, is my co-host, William Rumsey. Hello, William.
Who day?
All right.
Yeah, I had to take a little cue from you to gussy up my back wall.
It's looking very, very nice. I mean, that's what happens when the Bengals go to the Super Bowl. You get the itch, you get the feeling. You just want to go Bengals all day, all the time, don't you?
I'm not gonna lie, I lost my damn mind for about a month.
I know you
Just
did.
stopped buying shit.
Yeah, well, listen, I know we're trying to bring you back to reality. That loss has hit us, a lot of us, some of us harder than others, you being the harder, but, we're getting back to the reality of, the upcoming season. It'll be here before we know it, but, we thought it would be wise to talk about all the free agent signings the Bengals had. And, and as we start to gear up for draft, I mean, the drafts for the last couple of years have been pretty exciting itself if you're a Bengals fan.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, picking Joe Burrow, and then the big debate of between Chase and Sewell. And then I think this will be a little bit of a calmer draft. It should be, depending on if the Bengals make one more move, it should be just basically getting the best player, as we talked about. But we'll see what they do at the other cornerback position. But let's talk about the free agent signings, William. Let's start off with the big signing of
Before we do, just to tack on to that, the 2020 NFL draft, we also got T. Higgins and Logan Wilson. Now, that draft is pretty much the backbone of our team.
Yeah. Well, and last year's with McPherson and Chase.
Yeah.
I mean, the two linchpins. The last 2 years drafts, I mean, let's just face it, they've knocked it out of the park, and they went from an NFL afterthought to one of the premier teams, and boy, it feels good. But let's talk about free agency, William. Let's talk about the biggest signing that we had done to date. One, La'el Collins, the tackle from Dallas. Talk a little bit about him and, how much it meant to get him.
Man, I mean, I just like to hear that the recruiting process, Joe Burrow, and to get, he brought him into his house along with the other offensive linemen that he recruited to make sure that he didn't get out of Cincinnati without signing. And then you've heard about Collins for years. I think had a little bit of, legal troubles when he came out of college, which, that brings up some, for Bengals fans, that always makes us kind of feel queasy or, oh man, are we going back to the old ways? But then you put on, you get some highlights out of La'el Collins and you're like, holy shit, this guy's a Mack truck. He's going to, I know Mixon wanted him, Burrow wanted him, the coaches wanted him, the front office wanted him, everybody's on board. He seems to be saying all the right things. I mean, I put up a post on our page of all the quotes that he's coming out of his mouth. He seems like he wants to be here, protect Joe, open up some running lanes. So I think it's a home run pick. I think it's a good contract too, money wise. I mean, NFL contracts, I'm not as, those numbers come out there, but we all know it's kind of funny money. But I think that was a home run pick paired with the rest of the guys that they picked up.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the little baggage. I mean, for every bad person, you get somebody like Joe Mixon, which had some doubts coming out of college, and he's been nothing but a model citizen. So that stuff doesn't worry me too much, because the old saying goes, if you keep digging far enough, that you're going to find dirt on most people.
Sure,
so
for sure.
That doesn't really bother me. What the main thing that bothered me was whether he could play or not, and he can play. Yeah. And that was the one position I think that we all could agree on that we needed to just solidify before the end of free agency. But when you tack on a game changer like him with, Karras and Kappa, Karras, there was some, rumblings that Bill Belichick is, even commented that Cincinnati got a hell of a deal when they signed him. So, coming from a football guy like Belichick, that makes you feel good. And then you've got obviously Kappa, the guard where, Tom Brady tried to make a last-second pitch to get him in. So when you have Belichick and Brady trying to, say good things or try to get their guys to stay.
Football royalty.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to bode well. So you pair those three, and then we can all agree that Jonah should have always stayed on that line, which he will. Mm-hmm. The only other question mark is then the guard, the left guard, and what they're going to do there, which I think most pundits, including you and I, think he's going to probably go with Carmen Jackson.
Or Jackson Carmen.
Jackson Carmen, I'm sorry.
Hey, he's got a fun name. He's got 2 first names. I mean, I wonder what, obviously they didn't. I mean, they tried to, I guess, patchwork the offensive line last year, and then they made this run, and the national audience got to see that, after Burrow's big knee injury, they didn't really put much in front of him last year. And then the front office had to be just, probably embarrassed a little bit, I would say, about what they rolled out there and what they saw in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. But that's water under the bridge now. The front office, since they've taken Burrow, as much shit as they've taken the last 30 years, you got to give them credit.
Yeah.
That's just, it's holy shit. You got Carson Palmer out there the week of the Super Bowl ripping on them, saying bad things like, is Joe Burrow going to want to stay? And Joe Burrow is Cincinnati's prodigal son now, saying that kind of stuff. But the front office, the last 3 years, aces, man.
Well, I will tell you this, William, 2 things play into this free agency period. One, all these guys want to do what? They want to win. Winning cures a lot. The Bengals then made it to the Super Bowl. That's a huge step. Number 2 is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow brings a confidence, a swag to the city. You add those 2 things from, going to the least desired destination in the NFL to now, I would say, one of the more desired destinations in the NFL in just such a quick span. And that was just the 2 things. It's winning and Joe Burrow. You put those 2 things together, and, you've seen all the reports. Joe's the closer. I think Joe closed that deal. I think Joe closed the deal on all 3 of those guys on the line. What say you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Collins, when he got cut, and people knew the cut was coming for a while because people were trying to trade for him. Then he got cut.
Weren't you nervous that you thought somebody would just throw a 5th round at him?
For sure. And
no one didn't.
I would, exactly. That's what I would like to know, why no teams pulled the trigger on that. I guess they just thought, let's get him into free agency, trying to get him on a cheaper contract. It looks like that worked out for the Bengals. But you got to think that, all right, he's 28 years old, offensive line, those guys are getting paid in free agency. He didn't go anywhere else besides Cincinnati. Now, his agent was talking to other teams. I'm not that naive, but the fact that he didn't go visiting other teams, and he stayed in Cincinnati, got that contract done, that speaks volumes, I think, for Joe and his capabilities to get it done. There's just, you and I, we started the R&R show because of Mr. Burrow, and he's done nothing but be a professional since they picked him. And now he's closing deals like that. That's wild.
Now, one other little piece that they've added besides those 3 linemen was one Hayden Hurst. I know maybe people weren't as excited. I know we all had the pie in the sky hoping for Gronk, but we got Hayden Hurst, and I think this is going to be a very sneaky good pickup. He's a former first rounder, and he plays with an edge. And a lot of those guys that we've picked up play with an edge, and Hayden Hurst, all the things that I've read about him, he plays nasty. He plays with an edge. He wants to run over people. He wants to set the tone. And I think that's only going to bode well, A, for the whole line, but B, then Joe Mixon. I think we're in for a fun year. I think Joe Mixon, besides Joe Burrow, is probably the most ecstatic guy in the room right now, because he's never ran behind a good line, and he's done well behind a porous line. Boy, I bet we can't wait to see what Mr. Mixon has in store for us too.
For sure. That's a good point. Do we know what Hayden Hurst's middle name is? Does it start with an H? Can we have a triple H in Cincinnati?
God, we need a stat guy to look that up.
We need the stats. But no, I think Hayden Hurst was actually, the more I looked at it, and I think it's a great signing. I mean, he's been burned and shunned. Well, I don't want to say burned, but it's kind of been, to two different stops where he thought he was going to be the guy. So I think he's got something to prove this year, and he sounds like he wants to do that. He's an athlete, like you said. He's got the pedigree. He's got the hands. Only thing that worries me a little bit, he's not as great as a blocker as some of these other guys. But I think it's a great upside signing.
Yeah, I do too. And I
mean, it worried all of us that we were moving into the Drew Sample era, and we weren't ready for that.
No, but I will say this, even if, let's just say, plays devil's advocate, if it doesn't work out, there is so many tight ends still available out on the scrap heap. They're just going to be waiting for the call as the season goes on. Your Eric Ebrons of the world and people like that, they're just sitting by the phone, probably going to wait, because guys won't get the call till probably an injury pops up. Speaking about pedigree, one obviously Karras at center. He comes from a long lineage of football players. Do you not know that?
I did. Alex was his uncle, correct?
Yeah, and what sitcom was Alex famous for? That's right. That is correct, William.
I love Webster. Well, it's funny. When I first saw his name, it was probably when he was playing for the Patriots. I was like, I know I've seen that name somewhere before. And I started going down the internet rabbit hole. And found, Webster. I used to watch Webster religiously when I was little.
Yeah, he has a couple uncles too that played in NFL, so he's got a long lineage of obviously the pedigree. That all the signings excite me. I hope they're not done. They could be, but they cut weigh-ins just the other day to free up some more room. So there's got to be more cap there. I'm not sure what the number is, but I got to think they're still kicking the tires on another defensive tackle and a cornerback, don't you think?
Yeah, well, there have been rumblings that they've been looking at Stefan Gilmore. You hear all that stuff during free agency. I know Mike Hilton's been, on social media recruiting Akeem Talib, former cornerback. He's in the media now, and he said, "Oh, you'd look good with the Bengals" or something like that. But I just think he's going to be out of the Bengals price range. But I don't know. The longer it goes on, you just never know. Because he's got numbers out there that people aren't matching. So the longer it goes on, you don't know.
I will say this, and we've talked about this off air. I mean, that's the one thing that drove me crazy with the Bengals not having a GM is when Carolina got him for a fifth rounder midseason. That was the only soft spot, well, besides the offensive line, that we saw for the Bengals. I mean, I just think the Bengals win that Super Bowl if we get Gilmore for a fifth rounder last year. But, that's long gone. As far as tackle, do we think we bring back Ogunjobi, or do we or do we dip into somebody else?
I think they're definitely going to hit it in the draft, if not the first round. They're probably, like you said, the best player available. That's what they'll go. So, if they deem that the best player available is a defensive tackle, that's where they'll go, or cornerback, or, whatever it is, offensive line. I don't think anything. The only thing's probably off the table is quarterback and wide receiver.
Yeah. Yep. I couldn't imagine.
Linebacker. I can't imagine although if Nakobe Dean's there from Georgia, I mean, hell, you never know. So,
well, that's the thing is, and that's what I want to say. I would like, obviously they still have the Bengal that they cut for defensive tackle, but also I've talked to you many a times about Akeem Hicks. Yeah. He is an absolute difference maker. I know he's long in the tooth, but I'm telling you, if we get him when he's on the field, nobody can ever handle him.
He's just missed a ton of games.
I get it, but he is a game wrecker.
That's just not the Bengals' MO.
I get it. I would like for him to kick the tires on him if they don't get back.
I would like to see. I mean, depending on Ogunjobi's foot, I haven't heard what came out. The physical, like when he fails a physical, they had to know his foot was hurt.
I'm not really sure what that all entails, but of course I mean, you would have to think he's going to fail physical if he's still recovering from his injury. So
right. I say bring him back. I mean, let him do it on another proven deal. I think he likes Cincinnati. He would have come back if the money would have been right. BJ Hill's there. They can rotate those guys again. Run it back.
Yeah. I still want him to try to take a stab at Gilmore, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other news. Obviously, lots of news in the NFL shaking up. We've got Davante Adams going to the Raiders. We've got Deshaun Watson going to Cleveland. I've seen some pundits out there saying Cleveland is the team to beat. As you said, more bulletin board material. But, man, I mean, and then we got now Tyreek Hill shifting to Miami. So what say you about this AFC juggernaut?
Well, I guess the first question, why this offseason has it seemed like chaos has ensued with quarterback movement, player movement? Is the catch? What the hell is going on? It just feels different. The league. I think I sent a message out to the group. Or the NFL has changed from this offseason forward. I can't put my finger on what happened.
Well, I will tell you this. Here's what's happening, and it's called greed. Everybody used to be slotted, and everybody was just comfortable with just barely moving the needle. I want to be the highest paid. So they go up $1 million or $2 million, but now they're going up 20 more million than the next guy. And it's like, it's set the plateau. And it started with that selfish ass Aaron Rodgers. He's boxed Green Bay in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
They can't meet Davante Adams' demands. So then Raiders just blow it out the water. So then what happens? A trickle effect. And Tyreek's like, well, the KC was, sitting there negotiating with Tyreek before all that was going on. And then they see Davante's. Now Tyreek's like, well, I want to be. So then they couldn't meet their demands. So then it's just like it's chaos.
Then this Deshaun Watson contract is insane. I mean, how it affect? I mean, to sprinkle it in with our Bengals take. I mean, the contract that they're going to hand Joe Burrow, I can't wait to see what that is.
Yeah, it's going to be a monster. I hope. I know we'll bring back back up the Brinks truck, but boy, it's going to have to be one of those deals where, I mean, we're going to pay so much to Joe, and then we're going to be behold to Joe, and I just don't know how many pieces we're going to be able to keep around.
Well, and I've talked about. I mean,
Joe, like the big ass signing bonuses like some of these other teams do to soften up maybe the salary a little bit. They just don't do that.
I could see them at some point, I don't know who it would be, trading some of their players for draft picks because they need that cheap labor to offset that monster contract. But the Bengals don't make trades. But just to go back to your original point about the trade today, I'm super glad to see that Tyreek Hill is off the Chiefs.
Well, that puts the Chiefs, I'm telling you, and they'll make some other moves since the trade, obviously, but that really brought down the Chiefs stock. So let me ask you this. Let's play a little game, William. Quarterback AFC.
Yeah.
I will let you go first. Kind of graded as like a fantasy / real-time NFLer. Who would you have first?
So if I was going to start a franchise right now, who would I take first?
Well, let's just say for fantasy purposes.
Fantasy purposes. Okay. I would probably take Josh Allen.
I would say that's probably a solid pick. Yeah. Now, before Patrick Mahomes was probably a close number 2 or 1A. He's fallen off. If you were, gun to the head, I'm taking Joey B number 2 now.
All day.
Yeah, I don't think anything is.
I think him and Herbert are 2A and 2B.
Yeah. So number 3, you're saying Herbert.
Yeah.
So number 4, Deshaun's in a, he's finally got a good line. We've seen what he could do without a line.
Yeah.
But they probably Lamar. I would probably bump Lamar above.
I would put Mahomes at 4.
Oh, I forgot about. I'm sorry. Mahomes is 4. I apologize. So then after that, I'd probably put Lamar.
I would probably take Deshaun.
Yeah. Yeah, you're splitting
maybe that's a short-sighted answer because of the year that Lamar just struggled through. But I just
running is just so dynamic. It's for fantasy purposes, it's tough, but you could really split hairs there.
I'm not sold on his weapons.
Yeah. Now, do you think Tua comes up in the top 10 now? I mean, you got Waddle, Tyreek, Gesicki.
Yeah, I mean, I think
maybe.
And
maybe Davante Parker too, if he's sick.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like I need to see him prove it once, but they've got the right pieces. They got that new young coach that I think is a good offensive mind, McDaniel. I don't know, man.
I mean, Russell Wilson's got to be in there somewhere.
Are we talking about just AFC?
Yeah, and Derek Carr. I mean, AFC is just a war zone.
Nah.
It's just crazy. It's just littered, like the Raiders with Renfro, Davante and
Waller.
Waller.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard. That's hard to match up with too.
Yeah. I thought it would have been interesting if Tyreek would have gone to the Jets for Zach Wilson. I think that would have helped his development a little bit.
Oh God, Tyreek wasn't dumb enough to do that to himself.
Yeah, but is Tua that good?
I think he's way, way better than what they got in. I think New York's going to pull the plug. I think they were so just last year, like their coach was looking for any reason not to start him.
Yeah.
But we're in the midst. It's going to be fun.
What about Mac Jones? We didn't talk about Mac Jones.
I don't think much of him. I know the card market loves him, but I as a fantasy or a real-time football player.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is that Burrow's not getting a lot of fantasy love. Well, maybe from the ladies he is, but not from the fantasy football community.
Getting ready to happen. We're talking video game numbers, William.
That's what I mean. For him to do what he did with that line last year, I know he's got a tougher schedule, but
doesn't matter.
I just don't think what defenses out there scare us if they're going against the Bengals.
Yeah, I'll tell you right. There's no defense. I'm interested to see the Chargers make up with their additions.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see that. But other than that, any AFC defenses, they're so offensive heavy. All these AFC teams are they're nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to be shit. We're talking like the old AFL days. The old AFL days used to produce high 40 scores on a weekly basis. And that's probably what we're kind of getting ready to gear towards, because defense is not a priority on this side of the ledger. Now, you go over to the NFC, no wonder Tom came back. I got to think that they're the favorites, them and the Rams over there. That's the only two teams that even remotely scare me.
I mean, the Packers will be, and I think the 49ers will be decent.
49ers will be good, but that Packers garbage. The 49ers, we just don't know what they've got with Trey Lance. I mean, this could be a hodgepodge.
Yeah, but they've got some. I don't know. I believe in Shanahan.
Tom would have went to the Niners, they would have really been a foul. But again, Dallas has taken about 20 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, they're a hodgepodge. Just nobody scares me. Seattle's taking a step back. They all have. I mean, I just don't see any teams over there other than the Rams and Tampa. And I think the Rams have taken a step back. I just don't think they're as good now. I know they got out.
The AFC is just I can't believe what happened this offseason.
It's crazy. So I'm excited, but I guess we need to bring the fans back. When's draft day here?
I think it's April.
Usually mid-April sometime.
It's late April. It's like April 28th.
Is it? Okay. Can I get a confirmation on that?
NFL draft April 28th.
Okay, so April 20th. So we're just a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
What the Bengals do, I suspect now if they don't address that cornerback spot, I suspect they will take a cornerback with that first round. Now, if they do address it, then I could see them doing either or a lineman or a cornerback, because you can never have too many linemen,
Right.
especially as this thing kind of progresses. You want, I mean, they're in a good spot where if you take the best available, you just have the ranks, and as they come up, and some of these guys get older or bloated contracts, cut them, let that next, top guy come in. I mean, that's really the name of the game at this point.
You keep talking about taking a cornerback in the first round. What about Eli Apple? You've just totally poo-pooed him.
I don't like it. Bottom line, turn your damn head around. I mean, if he ever gets his head around, some of those are picks. He never turned his head around. Yeah. I mean, that's just my one buddy that played for the '83 Raiders, Joe Montel. That just drives him nuts. He does not like Eli Apple. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. What do you?
Yeah. I say we cut him.
Yeah.
So we re-signed him for another year, but he is not our starting quarterback. If you want to have him in some packages, sure. But he is not a starting cornerback, William.
All right, so we'll be back here. Our next show is going to be on the draft.
Yep. Well, unless another big thing happens, I don't know. All right. Well, William, we'll see all of you. Well, I'll see you soon, but I'll see all of our fans here in a couple of weeks. Talk a little Bengals draft.
Who day?